All right, live in 5, 4, 3. All right, we're here. Hey, everybody, welcome to our fixed op strategy session today here on Auto Conversion. This is one of 6 different webcast panel programs that we conduct here on Auto Conversion under the Auto Retail Marketing Webcast Series every Tuesday at 3 o'clock Central. I am Ryan Girardi, and today is Tuesday, June 9th. Thank you for joining us, whether you're on the live feed or maybe you're watching the recording some other time. Maybe you're listening on the podcast. Great to have you here. If you are watching the recording, I will, within a few days of this session, I will go into the comments of the video and leave clickable time markers so you can move around within the video. So you can, and I'll label what the transitions are and what the discussion points are. And today we are going to be talking about protocols and best practices that you've implemented at the dealership because of COVID-19, because of social distancing and stay in shelter. We've all implemented some new measures and protocols. So the question is, what do you see sticking around even after the fact, whether it's related to fixed ops or any part of the dealership? That's what we're going to be talking about today. And to lead that part of the panel, I have Ed Roberts on from Bozard Ford. So Ed, if you want to bring your camera on, now would be a good time to do that. I will unpin myself. Hello, sir.
Hello, how are you doing?
Great to have you back here. Thank you. I'm good now that we got everything squared away. And you were supposed to be on vacation today, but I think something changed, huh?
We just wrapped it up. There's still a lot of stuff lingering from COVID, and then with all the protesting and rioting out there, it became more of a challenge trying to find something to do that was open or was fun. And so we just figured we'd wrap it up and come on back and try again in a couple of weeks.
And just so people know what the heck we're talking about, you are in St. Augustine, but you were supposed to go where?
So I went north, and we was just going to come down the coast. We started in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, came down to Charleston, and then left Hilton Head this morning to come back home.
Okay.
Charleston was almost like a third world country when we was there.
No kidding.
Yes.
Because it was isolated, just not much going on.
Everything boarded up. What wasn't boarded up was busted up. It was an ugly sight.
Do you think it was boarded up to protect, or that there was looting and damage?
Both. So there was some looting and damage, and some got boarded up and probably prevented some of it, and some didn't. And the ones that didn't probably wish they would have. And then the stores that, as they took the boards off of some of the stores, all of them was empty. So I guess the store owners took their inventory and ran with it, trying to prevent as much loss as possible.
Difficult times and disturbing, to say the least, for us all. I do my show every Wednesday, the Mobility Tech and Connectivity Show, and the protest, the police brutality, the looting, all that is part of that conversation. So try to keep a pulse on things. Well, I'm sorry that your plans got changed. I am headed down to Florida on Friday, and my hope and expectation is to get away from a lot of the chaos up here. I'm in Chicago, and we're definitely getting our share of disturbances as well. And going into my town, Naperville, which is not a small city, it's 150,000 people, and seeing a lot of windows boarded up was disheartening, to say the least.
It is. I think you'll see that most of Florida is back up to speed. Not all the parks down there are open. I don't know what you guys are planning on doing, but Florida went into phase 2 late last week, so we're getting very close to being back to normal here.
Good. Well, let's all keep pushing for that and playing our part to make sure that we get there. I'm just setting up the live feed for everybody. Again, this is Ed Roberts of Bozard Ford. We're going to look at some things coming from his camp. And then for our second segment, we actually have Jeff Infeld from Quick Ride coming on. And that's going to lead into a discussion about mobility as a service within the fixed ops department. Jeff was on with us for our last session as well. So we're going to be picking up on that conversation. Now, Ed, you invited Barry to be here, right? Barry, you're with us?
I am with you.
Okay, Ed, why don't you just introduce Barry and why you invited him to be here today?
So Barry's is a fixed ops director at a Ford store in Florida as well. I guess he's about an hour south of me. One of the largest Ford stores in the state. They outrun us in sales by a touch, and I outrun them in service by a touch. But Barry's very in tune with the business. Been around for a long time, as you heard in his introduction, or you'll hear here in a minute. That he's been in the business for about 38 years, 37 of them at one store, and the last year at the store that he's currently at. And just wanted to kind of bring him on and quiz him on a few things that was challenges during COVID and what he learned from it and what he's going to carry forward.
Great. Just so I'm clear, you mentioned Ford dealership, right, Barry?
That is correct.
Okay. And are you doing fixed ops there, or a different
Fixed ops. That is fixed ops. Yep. Parts and service.
Well, Ed, why don't you take the lead for us here?
All right, let's do that. And Don, you can chime in at any point too, because I want to hear from you on this as well. But all of us, and I heard you say earlier that your business hadn't changed a whole lot, but all of us had to make some changes, whether it's visual for our customers or to make sure we're taking care of our people. But what did you guys change that really enhanced your business that you're going to carry on going forward, that really kind of stumbled across as you was doing it? We'll start with you, Barry.
A couple things. First of all, as far as on the sales end of it, we really needed to slow down anyhow, because we had gotten to the point where we were just quote unquote herding cattle. So I think what we learned from it is, let's do a very, very, very good job with the vehicles that are coming in. And I think that allowed us to continue to be profitable and make the money that we deserve to make during this slowdown time. It really opened our eyes to really a lot of the processes that we had gotten away from that made us successful, just because we're just so busy throughout the day. So we're going to do a better job going forward of giving the customer what they deserve, of becoming a really good inspection-based service department.
So slowing the transaction down and building some value in it.
That is correct. Yep. And we also did some stuff with some 4-day work weeks with technicians, which, believe it or not, as big as this store is, we've actually outgrown it, and we have an additional 17 days. It's at structural engineering now. But it was amazing, why we haven't done this before, but going to 4-day work weeks allows us to free up days on other days, so we can get more technicians in here in the same amount of space. So going to 4 10-hour days helped us also.
Is that something you got the idea of going through COVID from reducing staff?
Yeah, actually what happened is when we started reducing the number of days they came in, we found out that when we started looking at the overall flat rate hours in the shop, the productivity was actually going up because of being able to have days available for technicians to work in and that type of deal. So we said, you know what, it's working. And on the contrary, on the sales side, we have an A shift and a B shift. As you know, Ed, we have 45, I think it is, salesmen here, and they went to working every other days, and we found out that they became much more productive because they had to get stuff done today because they weren't going to be here tomorrow. So I think that Jeremy, our general manager, is going to try to keep the every other day shift in the sales department as well.
Yeah, we found that in our store as well, that the guys, rather than come in and stand on the point and create conversation, they came in and went to work. And then on their days off, they set up their day, the next day for them, setting appointments or whatever else, doing some follow-ups that probably wasn't being done previous to.
Yep. Just one more thing real quick that we did is we had a rotating schedule on Saturday of the technicians. And my previous life, I did not have that. I had a Saturday crew that was a day for them to work and turn and earn flat rate hours, and they were off a day during the week. So they had to make money on Saturday. When I came here, originally, they rotated through technicians, and they almost looked at it as, oh man, it's my Saturday to work, which was every third Saturday, and they almost felt like it was a punishment day. So we went to a set crew on Saturday, and they're off during the week, so they have to be productive on Saturday because they don't have another day to make those hours up. So that's something that we're going to continue on going forward also.
Don, what about you? What did you learn from this that you'll carry forward that you really stumbled across going through this?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. We learned that people can do more than they think they can. We did go through a period where we did reduce staff until we got some of the loans through the government, but we realized that people can do more. And, so we're probably not going to staff up as heavy as we did before and just have, the A players in there and maximizing the efforts. And we too, like Barry, saw an increase in our dollars per RO during that period as well, because people were doing a better inspection. They were slowing down, working the process and trying to make a living and take care of the guest. And, I think the other part of that is just, maybe the sanitation and some things that we do that we don't think about normally that really meant a lot to a guest, just cleaning the steering wheel and all the buttons and everything we touch and just trying to be a little more sanitary, so to speak.
And some of that gives the confidence of when you're visual with it, that you take pride in what you do and you're going to take care of their stuff while you have it. But I think part of it, because I'm right there with you guys, our RO value went up. I think part of it with the better inspections with the technicians is the uncertainty of where we was at. There was a fear that there was not going to be another job behind that one. Mm-hmm. So they got more in tune with carving their day out of what was in front of them and slowing it down and looking over them more. So I think part of it stemmed from fear, knowing they need to make a living and not knowing where the next one was coming from. But all of it tied together. But it shows us as fixed ops directors that there's opportunity out there. We always know there is, but sometimes when you see it firsthand, it becomes a little easier to reach out there and grab.
Barry, a question came in when you were talking about, your staff hours. How much did you reduce your staff initially in March when all this started?
Production-wise, zero as far as advisors or technicians. Overhead staff, agree with Don. We found out that we were really fat, to be honest with you, in some areas. We have what we call the hub, which most people call the BDC. We had 5 girls. We went down to 3. We have staffed that back up to 4, and 4 is the right number. 5 was overkill. Valets on the lane, we actually had 6 full-time. We went down to 3, and we, with all the pickup and delivery during COVID-19, we had to put that back up to 5. I think if it wasn't for all the pickup and delivery, 4 is the right number, but obviously our pickup and delivery went through the roof, so we had to go back to 5. But other than that, we really didn't have staff reduction.
But the non-productive jobs, you kind of found out how lean you really could run.
Exactly. I do want to make one point, though, that really wasn't money to the bottom line, but I think that we became better, we became more empathetic, if that's the right word, to the customers, and we became better reading body language of customers, because we would have a group of customers that would come in that would have masks, gloves, everything but a hazmat suit on, and we would have to treat them kind of one way versus the next person that may come in that would have nothing on, and we would have to understand, both sides of the fence. So I think that we became better at reading people and customizing the way we treat them based off the way they wanted to be treated. Before, it was kind of like, this is just the way we do it. This is our process, but we had to modify our process based on reading a customer. And trust me, that still is going on. Still as late as today. I have one customer come in masked up, and the next customer comes in ready to shake your hand and so on and everything else. So.
Now, I think that goes in line with phases. As we go deeper into phases, some of the customers that kind of stayed sheltered start to come out. So every time we change a phase, you got more that starts to come out, but they still have the fear of being out. So they mask up and glove up and do all those things. But to us, we've kind of been through it a bit, but to them, it's their first couple of days out and about.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Good point. Don, you have your hand up. Did you want to ask a question?
I was going to say the other thing is the discipline we reinstated, from back in '08, we went through all the discipline and really just examining everything, turning over every rock, looking at expenses and contracts. And, we've got into more of a routine with that discipline now where every meeting, we're going over expenses, checks, charges. And that's a discipline that we're going to keep in place now. I mean, we've learned that it's easy to let that process evaporate pretty quickly, and then expenses get on the books and nobody knows what they are. So we're holding everyone accountable to every expense, every check, and every dollar right now.
Very good.
Guys, I want to bring Jeff on. Jeff, if you want to pop your camera and microphone on. And the reason why is, Barry, you were talking about more emphasis on pickup and delivery. So I was hoping maybe you could expand on that, maybe give us an idea of how that's changed from pre or even early COVID period to now, and how that's changed. And that make a good segue into Jeff being here with Quick Ride. So could you elaborate on that a little, Barry?
Yes, we've always been a very big pickup and delivery store here because we're a Lincoln franchise also, and that's part of the Lincoln program. But we would do it for Ford. However, we actually started an early on campaign through email blasts, through mailers, through Facebook, radio, every type of form of advertisement, letting the customers know that we offered free pickup and delivery. It wasn't just for the Lincolns. And maybe one mistake we did make is we didn't put a mileage limit on it, and we didn't put a dollar limit on what the repair was coming in for. So we continued to roll with it. But I will tell you that the customers that we did the pickup and delivery on were very, very, very appreciative, because that was, most of them, quite frankly, were not professionals. The Lincoln customers were professionals and working, but the Ford customers were hunkered down in their house. And so they were very appreciative of the pickup and delivery that we provided them. So, and we're going to be honest with you, I was kind of thinking, let's start winding down from that. And my general manager had me drink some special Kool-Aid he made up and said, no, man, let's keep riding this deal. Let's continue the pickup and delivery for as long as we can. It's a customer benefit. In addition to that, and we'll go into it later, I think, that really helped our 2 mobile vans also at that point. And I think that's a topic for later on, is mobile service.
Yeah, and that's why I was hoping you could lean into that, because we talk about like home delivery is going to be the next big buzzword we hear for the next probably year or two, right? Or digital retailing has been a big part of the conversation. I like what Sean Welsh says. He says, let's just refer to it what it is. It's remote retailing, right? It's doing what we do from a remote standpoint, and home delivery is a part of that. But when you talk about pickup and delivery, you got parts, you've got people, and you've got vehicles themselves as well. So that's what I was curious about, Barry. When you were referring to more pickup and delivery at the dealership, were you referring to picking up vehicles from homes and workplaces, or picking up or shuttling people that are in the service department?
Picking up their vehicle, we actually would pick their vehicle up, service it, and deliver it back to them. So we were actually, we were A to Z service. They never had to leave their house, and then they just paid with a credit card over the phone.
Mm-hmm.
And what? I'm sorry.
I was going to say, is it mostly people at home versus at work? But I guess
most of that, our influx of business of that was people that were at home, that were hunkered down, and we were doing, we would ask them, do you want this to be I don't know what the terminology, touchless service. You want to leave the keys in the vehicle and we pick it up, and then when we return it, we leave the keys in the vehicle. And surprisingly, a lot of people did not want any face-to-face contact. They wanted us to pick their vehicle up. They were that scared. Now, you got to remember, in Daytona Beach, Florida, anywhere in Florida, there's a lot of retirees. So there is a lot of people that, they were high risk.
Yeah.
So they did not get out and about. So they, like I said, they really did appreciate that part of the service.
Good points. Very good points. If I can jump in, Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
Barry, you've said a lot of interesting things I'd like to touch upon. I'm with a company called Quick Ride, and we actually provide an Uber-like software for dealerships so they could repurpose their own personnel to facilitate a lot of these mobility concerns that they're doing. Number one would be managing your shuttle software, which would be, think of it like Uber-like software for managing your shuttle software, or also valet pickup and drop off, a concierge service like you've been doing, Barry, at your store, and also mobile mechanics and parts trucks. And there's a million other use cases that come into play when we take the dealership experience and bring that to the customer's front doorstep. And you said some things that I think are very interesting, and you've been through a lot of these learning curves. And we have dealers nationwide, and what we see is it's a very fluid situation, right? So some dealerships got shut down entirely for retail. They could only keep the essential workforce, which would be the service department, open, and needed ways to jump in and fight fires and keep the lights on. And then in Florida, wait, you guys are special. Like, I'm from Florida. I mean, the Conch Republic, right? You get your own way of doing business down there, right? No matter what happens. So it's
Right.
You got that luxury. And it's refreshing to hear that you kind of instinctively went to a touchless service because, you had the sentimentality of the people there were aging population, senior citizens, high risk category folks. So that's, right on the money in terms of what a lot of dealers were forced into those situations to figure out. But I think, you had said earlier, your GM said, hey, I think there's something here. Maybe we should keep this service front and center. And I think that's a gift that a lot of fixed operations across the country, and Ed and I have talked about this, should run with, because for years and years and years, when you think of a dealership and you think of the general manager, owners, they've come up out of the sales ranks. Typically, they understand that world. They invest heavily. They put dollars into that front of the house. When I used to sell services to variable, I could walk in and get $1,000 check from any general manager on any marketing service. But turn that on its head, and I walk into and on the fixed operations, and we have a $500 product or something that is much needed. The decision process takes a lot longer. It gets bogged down, and that system needs to change now, because really it's the service should be the front of the house going forward. When a car dealer sells a vehicle, only 25% of the retail sales are retained for service. That's 75% of folks that buy cars that are going elsewhere with their new and used vehicle to get service somewhere else. So there's so much great opportunity. And what we found in our business is that customers want convenience and they want an experience, right? And you think of experience, I'll go back to your state. Disney gives the best experience any money can buy. I'll shell out as much dollars to get that Disney experience for me and my kids. Of course, the kids appreciate it a lot more, right? But you'll just do it because of the Disney experience. And then convenience is Starbucks didn't need drive-throughs to be the number one coffee retailer in the world, right? But they added drive-throughs because that little extra is what customers wanted and what customers pent up really needed to even make their coffee experience even more efficient. So now you guys have a great opportunity, right? These things are sometimes threats or are great opportunities for folks. And that's what you said, Barry, that we want to do business the way the customer wants to do business. And this is another lever to pull now, which is taking the in-house dealership experience and extending it into that remote experience for the customer.
I think that we almost have become, golly, I hate to say it this way, but snobbish of, this is how we operate. If you're
Right.
going to do business with us, this is how we do it. And we really had to step back and swallow a little bit of pride and say, you know what, maybe that's not what the customer wants anymore. And so that's kind of the phase that we're in now, is realizing that, you know what, there is another way. And we're still going to have the majority of our customers that want to come in face to face. However, we want to make sure we're able to service the ones that would prefer. And I don't think it's really catering to them. It's just the way they prefer to do business. So I think that we've learned a lot from it. I don't think I know we have.
Let me ask you guys as a group, and Don or Ed maybe can respond to this. Is it a guessing game to know what the customer wants? Like, do you have to, like Ed, you guys have mobile vans, right? So did you know that was going to be successful, or did you have to make the experiment and try it out and make it successful?
So we had a different plan with mobile vans, and Barry has mobile trucks as well. We had a different plan with what we was going to do with them. But it was clear when COVID started tightening everything up that this is our way to continue to do business and continue to offer what our customer wants and deliver on that touchless service, or not even just touchless, but effortless, truly an effortless service, because the customer does not have to leave their house. They don't have to get dressed if they don't want to. They don't have to find something to do while we're working on their vehicle. They can stay in their home, they can stay in their office the entire time that we're there doing whatever we're doing. We'll communicate with them in the beginning and communicate with them in the end, and we don't have to make personal contact, or some we will. It depends on the customer. But another thing from a visual standpoint, on the ones that do come into the dealership for service, it is very much visual. So we require all of our guys to wear a mask on them, but not necessarily wear it. But as soon as somebody approaches them wearing a mask, then we have to meet them at their level and match them, because there's a reason that they have that level of fear. And then we also have various things posted, and we'll let them know when they call in that all of our people have masks. Some will be wearing them when you get here and some will not. But if you would like the person to wear a mask that you're working with when you get here, just please let them know that. So even if they don't have a mask, us too. And then we put up the sneeze shields and that kind of stuff. But it is meeting them at their level. And it's like Barry said, with learning our customer. You find different ways to learn them faster. We've always tried to find something on their vehicle to kind of create a connection with. Now it's not just their vehicle, it's them personally as well.
Yeah. Don, you said too about the exercise that all dealers went through in the last 10 years, which was continual process improvements and focused around the cost cutting efficiencies. My best analogy of something like this in our world is Amazon, right? Amazon is a logistics company, if you think about it. And, that way, not only are you looking at efficiencies within the dealership, but why not be creative and say, okay, I love what you said, Ed, which is effortless service, right? What's going to make the customer's life easier? And even when COVID is gone behind us, if I'm sure customers, if you gave them a survey, wouldn't mind having you pick up that car in the morning and have it back in their driveway at 5 p.m. that night, and or having you. A lot of our dealers are doing certain things, and they're jumping on the recall bandwagon with trucks like you have, Ed. So they'll have their BDC center in action, calling on the customers that never brought in the seatbelt or the airbag, and they'll be, hey, I know everybody's hunkered down. We'll go ahead and come to your driveway. We have a special van outfitted that does seatbelts or airbags or whatever the tires, and they'll just get the work done and keep everything moving forward that way. So yeah, logistics, as Amazon's taking it right to our doorstep, I think we can learn from that. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, we've kind of talked about what we've learned, but it's truly what the customer learned as well, of what could be available to them.
Yeah,
so they learned that these things are available. They're not going to want to go back the other direction.
Exactly. Yeah, I fly to Burbank Airport here, and as much as I can in LA. I try to stay away from LAX. If you guys have been to LAX, you know what I'm talking about. And Burbank Airport, just like a lot of airports you guys go to, it has a valet right at the curb now. I don't have to park across the street and take a van over. I pull right up to the curb. I give the guy my keys and I walk right into security line. I'm not going back. I'm paying that $25 per day, you know? So,
Exactly.
it just, like you said, once you switch that lever, customers get hooked on some great services.
Yeah, we can't take it backwards now. We took it forward. We can't take it backwards.
Yeah.
Don, if you're still with us, I'd love to hear some input from you as far as any type of delivery, home delivery, pickup and delivery that you guys have had adopted during this time.
No, we absolutely did the same thing. We brought on a number of more shuttle drivers to where we could go take somebody to pick up the car, bring it back. I think it's important that they see that we had the steering wheel covers on, the seat covers, the floor covers, and watching us wipe the car down when we exited out. And I think you guys hit the nail on the head. I mean, the car business is one of the few businesses, and I've been in it a long time, that's failed to adapt to what our customers want and expect. And that's why the Amazons of the world and the Starbucks and all these other folks are taking off, because they were able to recognize and adapt much more quickly. And we've been pretty slow in the uptake, in my mind. We're still kind of doing business the way we did 25 years ago, and in a lot of ways. And we've got to either change or we won't survive.
JD on the live stream says, taking that extra step to wow the customer is necessary, and that will keep them coming back. And JD, just so you know, is not in the auto industry. So he's coming from a consumer's standpoint. And I think it's easy on the industry level to have the rhetoric of wowing the customer, but actually delivering on that is not easy.
Exactly.
Right? It's not just technology. It's people, it's processes, and all that stuff has to get worked out. And I see you guys smiling because you're like, yeah, it's not just a tech stack.
Well, when COVID hit, you saw my airwaves on my TV screen between my binge watching. All the manufacturers put out all this, we're going to pick up and drop off and do all this mobile work to your house, but not one of them had a real good system in place to hand to their dealer to say, here, use this solution, right? So they left it up to dealers to figure it out on their own, which is fine. That normally happens. But when you're advertising in such a big medium, Toyota, Ford, Mercedes, they all had it out there, VW on their commercials. But I'm just now getting calls from manufacturers now saying, okay, tell us about Quick Ride. Tell us how you can support our dealers, and we have stimulus packages where dealers can get in free, use the software, and if they like it, cancel it, or don't like it, they cancel. If they keep it, they keep it. So we put together programs like that, but it's literally now the OEMs are waking up. There wasn't even a co-op category for this mobility solution software that we provide. So, and as we know, Uber and Lyft have been around to provide, but then they got hit in the crossfire of all this, because is that a sanitary situation for a dealer to put their customer in? Maybe, maybe not. But if they can control 100% of that experience with their own personnel, their own vehicles, now they've got a way to control that experience that we've all been talking about here. Ed, what do you see?
I'm right there with you. The Uber and Lyft is talked about a lot in the car dealership world, but I'm just not a fan of it yet. With you control it with your own vehicles, because if a customer brings his vehicle in for service, it's supposed to be in for the second time or whatever else, and you send him home in a Lyft or you send him home in an Uber, and they pick him up in brand X, and the conversation that starts from the pickup point. If you're picking them up from a restaurant, well, what do you think of that place? I've never been there. So same thing at a car dealership. If those guys pick them up from a car dealership in a different brand vehicle, the first thing they're going to do is, what was going on? And then they start talking, well, this is the third time I've been in here this year with this thing. Second time I had to fix the AC on. And then the next thing you know, the conversation evolves into, I've never had any trouble with this thing. It's been a great car, blah, blah, blah. And they're looking at another brand. So I've never been a fan of it with Lyft or Uber. But when you can control it with your own brand, that's the ticket, and that's what you bring to the table.
You guys, JD had a question a few minutes ago that I kind of feel like I was trying to get at too, which is how do you know what the customer wants to see? The way he phrased it was, did anyone do any brand strategy sessions to determine next steps on what customers want to see in terms of service post COVID? Because I guess what I was getting at, which I think JD's getting at as well, is, the government and the CDC came out with some guidelines. And I think what most dealers did was said, hey, we're adhering to these guidelines. We've got tape on the floors and we've got gloves and sanitizer. We're doing all these things. But it's that interface with the customer where you learn more, right? I think it was either Ed or Don, it was one of you, was explaining how some customers are okay with your masks off, some aren't. And so your protocol, was that you, Ed, explaining that?
Yes.
Is your protocol assume that customers prefer that you're wearing a mask, or is it make them ask you to wear one?
If they are wearing a mask, we're going to match them at their level and wear a mask while we're communicating with them.
Okay.
But they also have the opportunity to ask us if they want us to wear one without them wearing one.
Mm-hmm.
We won't put it on if they don't have one unless they ask us to. But if they have one on, we're putting ours on.
Gotcha. So when a customer walks into the service bay, the staff isn't walking around with masks on right now?
Some are, because some of our employees feel better about wearing a mask.
That's their
than
choice.
Yes.
But it's not mandated.
It's not mandated.
And then if they interface with a customer, then they would mimic what the customer's doing.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, Barry or Don, is your protocol different?
No, we do the same thing. Any customer facing employee had masks. And I agree with you, Ed. We just had to match them at their level, because obviously if they're wearing a mask, there's a high level of anxiety and concern, and we would have the mask on as well, and gloves and that type of thing. So, yeah.
Actually, this has been one of the great takeaways from Ed, is matching the customer. Well, we have provided all the employees masks. We have a couple of the older valets on the lane that wear theirs almost the entire time they're out there, because they feel that they're high risk. However, our service advisors do not wear masks. That we have provided all employees masks. We do not make it mandatory, but I like the idea of matching the customer. If the customer has a mask on, then we should mask up. If they don't, then they must be okay without it. So that was one of my takeaways and notes that I made that I'm going to implement here. Now, we are 100% gloves. All the visors have gloves on, and all the valets are wearing gloves, and steering wheel covers, and so on down the line. And we've even been challenged on that. I mean, we've had customers tell us, hey, those gloves are not doing any good because you don't take them off after every vehicle you touch, and so on down the line. And we just kind of, try to roll with it. But I do like the idea of mimicking the customer.
Well, it's more psychological than anything.
Absolutely.
We know, Ryan, you asked what the customer wants, to some degree. And, my experience has been the customer service as a whole, no matter what industry you're in, is probably about an all-time low, in my opinion. And, sometimes we think we got to present this utopia for our guests. And I think it really comes down to doing what we say we're going to do, when we're going to do it, for the price we said we're going to do it for, and do it in a professional and friendly manner. And I think the bar is not that high compared to the level of service most of us are experiencing, whether we go to the hardware store, the grocery store, the restaurant, or wherever we're at. So that's my opinion anyway.
And obviously, geographically, where you are has a lot to do with that. Here in Illinois, I would bet every dealership you walk into, everybody's got a mask on, because Illinois is taking the lockdown pretty seriously. Well, that's key. Hey, as a closing piece here, kind of getting back into the Uber, the rideshare experience, Jeff, because while you guys were talking, JD had shared that a couple of years ago he had to get an Uber on his own from a dealer in Long Island because it was taking them too long to fix his car, and he was out of their range to provide him with a shuttle service. So, JD, I'd love to know how far you had to go, which begs the question, how come the dealer's not too far for you to bring your car to? It seems to me if I'm willing to bring my car to your dealership, you should be willing to commute me somewhere.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I mean that's we've heard that story like Ed laid it out. There's a double-edged sword with ride sharing. On one hand, it solves the fact that you get a customer conveniently out of the dealership lounge, and as you know, we want no waiters because the waiters the RO dollar amount's lower on a waiter than it is on a person who's comfortably at home or at their office. So yeah, I mean it solves that piece. Uh, Uber and Lyft have come out with their voucher system, which is trying to offset. So we've seen dealers, about 80% of quick ride dealers have been with Uber, Lyft, and have come back because of runaway expenses. Dealerships have, hey, here's your voucher, and then they add up at the end of the month, and their fixed expense on the transportation piece has gone 3-4 fold through the roof. That doesn't happen all the time, but the voucher system helps mitigate that by limiting it. It says, okay, Mr. Customer, we value you, but we value $10 worth or 15. You set the amount and you voucher it. And then the customer would pay, the extra $5-10 above that to go where they're going to go. So it's not a bad trade-off, I would imagine, in that scenario. But yeah, I mean, it's an old thinking, like gentlemen here have discussed. We need to rethink, well, do we really need to limit our shuttle to 4 or 5 miles, especially if we can add a software like Quick Ride that will make it efficient for my shuttles who do 15 pickup and drop offs a day, extend that easily to 30 because it's picking up, dropping off, to navigating the driver through traffic, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, there's rules that we need to continue to shatter and move past in that scenario.
There's a dealership here near where I live. It's a Buick GMC dealership, and the owner actually had relocated his store from a different part of the suburbs. And I'm not talking nearby. I mean, you're talking like a 30-mile trek. And in the Chicago area, I mean, that's like another country. So he literally like left his business to go open here. But he was giving me a tour of the service department. This was about 3-4 years, maybe 4 years ago. And he had a whole operation devoted to pickup and delivery with remote customers. And this was like 4 or 5 years ago. He had a whole team, and their whole job was to go pick up cars from customers that, past customers that were out of the area. They go get their car, bring it in, service it, and bring it back to them. And there was like a team of 4 or 5 people. That's what they did. So,
yeah, and if dealers are tentative, one way to sneak it in, Ed, you did this well, which was to mobile service. And maybe you could talk a little bit about your mobile service vans on your commercial accounts. That's a safe way, a repeatable business to launch that aspect of a dealership. Ed, what are your thoughts there?
Mobile services it can enhance our business in multiple ways, and I'll touch on it in one. But it helps immensely, whether it's a fleet or a non-fleet, whether it's just a customer, from conquesting, because that service is not offered widespread. And when you can meet them at their level, the most important thing to a customer, no matter how we look at it, is their time. And we can give them more of their time back. We have gave them value back. And when we give them value back, it builds value in us to them. So mobile service, we put it together to do fleets and to not just to do Ford fleets, but to go out and chase the non-Ford fleets so that we can convert them to Ford fleets. But when COVID hit, we really found out how customers would be receptive to it. And they are extremely receptive. And I haven't talked to Barry about this, but I don't think it'll be out of reach for us to have 10 trucks in the next year.
And you're at 2 now, right?
I'm at 2 now.
Yeah. Barry, how many mobile vans do you have?
We were at 2, and the best jump start that we could have ever gotten in our mobile service business is COVID-19. I mean, oh yeah. I mean, the timing of the 2 vans arriving and then this happening just really jump started it. We do have to, right now it's a huge customer convenience. I think down the road, I think it's probably a year before we make it profitable, to be honest with you, because we haven't really figured out how to make it profitable yet. We are not charging a customer any additional money for mobile service, including if it's just an oil change. If we have to go 20 miles to do a $39 oil change, that's what we're doing right now. But we're really just trying to get the brand out there and let the customer know that we offer it. And then we'll cross the making money path down the road.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's end on that, if that's all right.
Can I add
Yeah.
one more thing to that? So
Yeah, give me a second, Jeff. I do
Sure,
want to
sure.
have you do that. I wanted to thank Ty and JD for being on the live feed. And JD, by the way, said that dealership that wouldn't bring him back, he was less than 7 miles away, which on Long Island isn't that far, but I mean, this was a couple years ago. So lesson learned there. I mean, Ed, Don, Barry, maybe you disagree. I mean, there's got to be a point there has to be a point where too far is too far, unless you say, hey, if a customer can bring their car to you, then you can shuttle them somewhere. So, interesting takeaway. Jeff, go ahead. I wanted you to kind of close things out as well, but I know you had something to add on to what Barry was saying.
Oh yeah, a thought, since I've got the ear of a couple really experienced fixed ops, and old dogs love new tricks, is you probably have heard about some dealerships that are putting retail salespeople into the drop off and pickup rotation. And that's not a bad idea to say, have a sales guy who's going to go out there and build rapport with one of your customers. Because if the front of the house is selling one car and you're responsible for the next 9, why not use their pretty faces to, build that relationship and do some equity mining on that vehicle, show up with a piece of paper. Hey, if you're ever interested in selling your vehicle, I'd buy it from you. Here's a piece of paper. My name's Bob. Here's my card, all that good stuff. So that's another kind of tying the front of the house to the back of the house that your GM might get excited about, maybe throw some more support your way for services that you want to provide. And, just out of the box thinking. I just wanted to throw that out.
Good point.
I think a lot of the truly successful car sales people that I've spoken with, that was one thing they had nailed down, was being in the service in the service department, interfacing with customers. I had one guy. I think what he did was he would buy pizzas for the service techs and the advisors to tip them off when they had certain customers that met certain criteria, particularly like if their RO is going to be over a certain amount, and there's a good opportunity there to talk about a trade-in. Okay, Ed, anything you'd like to add before we call it a wrap?
I think this was a very good session. I picked up some takeaways as well. I like the equity mining piece when you take a vehicle back to somebody because you've had it there and you know the condition of it, and it gives you an opportunity to do a fair appraisal on it rather than a guesstimated appraisal. But I hope that everybody had some good takeaways from this, and this is about throwing out some ideas that has been successful for us and us all to learn something. And I think we had some good input from everybody, and hopefully everybody took something away from it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I did. And if I could just wrap those up, it is, be open to new ideas by listening, by getting a feedback loop and listening to be attentive to what the customer needs, and then building around that. I think a lot of that is getting into peer groups like this, and hey, if you're doing this and it's working and you've got happy customers, then maybe I should be looking into that as well. With that, this is the Fixed Op Strategy Session. This is one of 6 different auto retail marketing webcasts that we do every Tuesday at 3:00 Central. It's a Zoom webinar like this. So that means every 6 weeks we'll be back with another Fixed Op session. Thank you, Ed, for committing to your part. So we're forming a new dealer advisory board, and each of the 6 sessions is getting an appointed dealer champion, if you will. So Ed has taken the helms of the Fixed Op session for this purpose, to bring peers together in an open forum. I will add this. The things we talk about here, they take time to implement. You need a lot more information. So you're not going to this is really a good place, I think, to get new ideas and get some immediate peer review. But, actually putting these things into motion takes, collaboration. That's why I have people like Jeff here, myself as well. I'm very committed to working with dealers at many levels. I mentioned we're gonna launch a new partnership with Quick Ride with Jeff to help bring the Quick Ride solution into local dealerships as well, and we'll use this as a platform to to build awareness and understanding, and really address some of the hurdles and the challenges that come with implementing ideas and solutions. Jeff,
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. Ed, you can go back on vacation now. You're done. Good luck.
Thank you.
enjoy that vacation.
Is the
Don?
Bahamas open? Maybe you can fly to the Bahamas.
I'm not leaving the continent right now.
Stick around. Canada'd be safe. You can go to Canada.
Yeah.
So, all right, Ed, Jeff, thank you. And Don and Barry for being here on Zoom with us. Thank you as well. And for those on the live feed, JD and Ty, I know you were in there as well. Ryan Girardi here from Auto Conversion. This is our fixed op strategy session. We'll be back. Actually, no show next week. No webcast next week. Taking a week off. But tomorrow I have Mike Phillips and Bobby Heron coming on for our 2-minute drill down on the Mobility Tech and Connectivity show. So if you're subscribed to our YouTube channel, pay attention, because that'll come out. That'll be out tomorrow. Live session just like this. Go ahead and shut our cameras off. I'm going to take us offline. Have a great rest of the week, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the invite. I enjoyed it. Thank you.